Hey guys, tonight we step softly into an Edo period tea room where the world outside falls away like mist. You trudge through a narrow garden path lined with moss and stone lanterns, each step muffled by fallen leaves that whisper underfoot. The air is cool and carries a faint scent of damp wood and delicate incense, promising calm. Ahead, a humble wooden door, aged by time, waits silently. You probably won't survive this ritual if you expect anything flashy. This is the art of patience, subtlety, and mindful detail that can put even the busiest modern mind to sleep in minutes. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are winding down from now. Dim the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You pause before sliding open the door, stepping inside a dim room lit only by soft, natural light filtering through paper shoji screens. The air feels cooler here, quieter, almost sacred. The space is small, framed by dark wooden beams that seem to hum with centuries of stillness. Tatami mats, woven from straw, cover the floor with a gentle texture beneath your bare feet. You sense the hum of a ritual about to begin, a ceremony that demands attention to the smallest detail. This is not a place for hurry or distraction. Instead, it invites you to slow down, to notice the weight of a single breath, the sound of a kettle's quiet whistle yet to come. In Edo, Japan, this tea ceremony, or chenawu, was more than just drinking tea. It was an art form, a disciplined practice blending aesthetics, spirituality, and social grace. You probably didn't realize that the tea ceremony as we know it was codified in this era with masters like Sen no Riki shaping its principles of simplicity and harmony. Historians still argue whether its roots lie more in Buddhist meditation rituals or in the social customs of the warrior class. Either way, it's a tradition that requires you to be fully present. The room's simplicity doesn't mean plainness. Every element here is intentional. The dark wooden alcove with a single hanging scroll, the delicate arrangement of seasonal flowers, the faint aroma of incense mingling with the damp earth smell from outside. You notice how the light plays softly across the uneven texture of the earthen walls, their warm tones comforting like a slow sigh. You settle onto the tatami, the straw cooled against your skin, and prepare to watch and maybe even partake in the intricate dance of preparation that's about to unfold. Asterisk, you lean back slightly, taking in the tools arrayed with quiet reverence on the tatami before you. They don't look like ordinary tea accessories. Each one seems carved from centuries of tradition, bearing the marks of countless hands that came before. A chuan, or a tea bowl, is earthy and asymmetrical, embracing wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection. Its glaze is cracked in places like tiny rivers frozen in time. You might think it's fragile, but it's beloved for those very flaws. A testament to humble elegance. Beside it lies the chasen, a delicate whisk crafted from a single piece of bamboo, shaved into 100 slender prongs. You marvel at how something so simple holds the power to transform powdered tea and water into a frothy, vibrant brew. It's not just a tool, it's a bridge between nature and ritual. Then there's the chishaku, the tea scooper, slender, curved sliver of bamboo shaped almost like a tiny spoon, but far more graceful. You imagine the precise motion needed to measure just the right amount of matcha powder, no more, no less. Over there, a small silk cloth called the shake-in awaits, ready to be folded and used for cleaning. It's an act that carries as much meaning as the brewing itself. Oddly enough, you might not expect that these utensils sometimes held secret meanings or even practical uses beyond tea. For instance, Some tea masters once used certain scoops or bowls as tokens of status or secret gifts passed between disciples. There's a quirky story about one bamboo whisk that supposedly came from a sacred bamboo grove and was believed to bring calm to anxious guests, whether true or legend. It adds a whisper of mystery to the ceremony. Historians still argue whether the aesthetic focus on rustic simplicity came directly from Zen Buddhist ideals or was a clever way for tea masters to distinguish themselves from the ostentatious displays common among samurai elites. Whatever the case, each tool here is a story in itself, shaped not only by function but by centuries of cultural layering. You run your fingers lightly over the rim of the tea bowl, feeling the faint ridges, the smoothness where hands have held it thousands of times. It's a tactile reminder that this ceremony is about connection between you, the host, the tea, and the moment itself. This isn't just about drinking tea. It's about experiencing a centuries-old conversation without words. The subtle weight of these tools, their textures and scents, already begin to pull you deeper into the ritual's quiet rhythm. Asterisk, you watch as the host moves deliberately toward a small well or basin just outside the tea room. The selection of water is no trivial matter. Here it's a quiet science and an art all at once. The host dips a wooden ladle into the clear pool, listening to the soft splash as the water pours, careful not to disturb the surface too much. You might think any clean water would do, but in Edo, Japan, this was a critical choice. Water from mountain springs or carefully filtered streams was prized for its purity and subtle mineral balance, believed to influence the tea's flavor profoundly. The host's focus is palpable. Each sip of water used to rinse utensils or make tea is considered, with the reverence usually reserved for sacred offerings. There's an old tale whispered among tea circles about a famous master who once rejected a batch of tea simply because the water tasted off, whether from a sudden rainstorm or some invisible impurity. The ceremony's success depends on these invisible details. You notice how the water's temperature is also key. Too hot, and the tea's delicate umami notes would burn away. Too cool, and the matcha wouldn't dissolve properly, leaving a gritty mouthfeel. Charcoal fires, carefully tended, bring water to a near-perfect boil, then allowed to settle just so. There's a slow dance between heat and patience that mirrors the entire ceremony's rhythm. There's also a fringe story that sometimes the water was enriched with subtle herbs or minerals to enhance its properties, though purists would scoff at this idea. Historians still argue whether such practices were common or mere myth, born from exaggerated tales among tea schools trying to outdo each other in secrecy and sophistication. You lean closer, feeling a faint mist rising from the heated water, carrying a whisper of earth and wood smoke. The simple act of heating water feels almost like a meditation, a slow unfolding of focus that sets the entire ceremony's tone. It's a reminder that every element, even something as mundane as water, carries weight and meaning here. This slow, deliberate gathering of water is not just a preparation step. It's a ritual that invites you to shed hurry and embrace the moment's depth. Asterisk, the charcoal glows softly now, nestled in the iron kettle's hearth like a tiny, contained sun. You watch the host's hands, steady and deliberate, as they tend the fire with long iron tongs. This heating isn't just practicalized symbolic, a slow, meditative act that mirrors the ceremony's deeper rhythms. Charcoal, prized for burning clean and steady, has a history almost as long as the tea ritual itself. Poured it carefully and often from the hard maple trees of distant provinces you might not expect, but the charcoal's crackle was once believed to carry spiritual energy. Some tea masters whispered that the warm glow purged negative spirits from the room, turning the ceremony into a sacred space, not just in form, but in essence, whether that's a poetic, fancy, or an old superstition. The crackling embers definitely set a calm hypnotic background hum to the proceedings. Historians still argue whether the use of charcoal hearths was purely for tradition or if they subtly aimed to create a particular atmospheric effect after all. No one likes jittery guests, and the warm amber light surely helps relax even the most impatient souls. Plus, the faint scent of burning wood adds a layer of sensory comfort you didn't realize you craved. The kettle itself, called a kama, is hefty, blackened with use, but polished at the spout where water is poured. It sits just above the charcoal, its metal body humming gently as heat slowly infuses the water inside. You realize this slow heating is a kind of patience training rushing would spoil. The teas flavor and break the ritual's flow as the host adds a few more charcoal pieces. You notice the precision. Too many, and the fire might rage too hot. Too few, and the water wouldn't reach the delicate temperature needed. It's an ancient balancing act, one taught and perfected over generations. You inhale deeply, the smoky warmth mingling with the fresh incense and the faint earthiness of the room. The kettle's soft whistle is a distant promise, a signal that the ceremony's heart is beating steadily now. You're settling into this quiet world, one slow breath at a time. Your eyes sweep the tea room again, noting how the host arranges the space with a precision that borders on reverence. Every item, every grain of tatami, every corner of the alcove is a calculated choice, subtle nod to harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility, the four pillars of the tea ceremony. The tokonoma, that small, recessed alcove you glimpsed earlier, holds a simple hanging scroll with calligraphy, carefully chosen to reflect the season or mood. Below it, a vase cradles a single sprig of seasonal flowers, their quiet presence anchoring the room in nature's ever-turning cycle. You might think this minimalism is empty or sparse, but that would be missing the point entirely. The simplicity here is deliberate, like a whispered invitation to notice what often goes unseen. There's a quirky story that one tea master once used a scroll that simply said nothing in elegant brushstrokes. Guests were left to ponder what that truly meant, sparking debates that continue to this day among tea aficionados and scholars. Historians still argue whether the formalized placement of these elements was inspired primarily by Zen Buddhism's aesthetic ideals, or if it was a strategic way for hosts to subtly display their cultural literacy and refinement. Whatever the case, tea arrangement sets a silent mood that resonates long after the tea is gone. The host kneels, adjusting the placement of the tea utensils just so the chowan slightly to the left, the chishaku resting gently atop the tea caddy, the whisk nearby but not in use yet. You notice the soft rustle of silk kimono sleeves as the host moves, the faint clink of ceramics settling into place, each sound part of a quiet symphony. You realize that this careful choreography invites you into a mental space where every moment matters. The tea room becomes a universe compressed into a few tatami matza plays where time slows and awareness sharpens. You find yourself tuning into the soft sounds, the gentle scrape of bamboo, the whisper of fabric, the muted thud of footsteps on straw. This arrangement isn't just about aesthetics, it's a meditation in itself. And as the host steps back to survey the space, you feel the tension in your shoulders ease, replaced by a gentle anticipation. Asterisk, you watch as the host delicately opened the lacquered tea caddy, revealing the vibrant emerald powder inside matcha, the star of this ceremony. Its color seems almost unnatural in its brilliance, a vivid contrast to the muted earth tones of the room. You probably didn't know that this finely ground green tea was originally imported from China, but took on a life of its own in Japan, becoming a symbol of refinement and spiritual focus. The powdered form, as opposed to loose leaves, allows for a fuller experience of the tea's rich umami flavor and frothy texture. The match's journey is fascinating. The leaves are carefully shaded before harvest, a process called tanna, which boosts chlorophyll production, intensifying the green color and the tea's health benefits. There's a quirky fact that some samurai believed drinking matcha improved their focus and stamina in battle. Though historians debate whether this was propaganda or a genuine effect, as the host scoops just the right amount of matcha into the bowl, you notice the precision and care. Too much would make the tea bitter, too little, weak, and insipid. The balance here is a metaphor for life itself, a lesson often drawn in tea circles. The vibrant powder dusts lightly on the host's fingers, a visual promise of the calm yet alert state that's to come. Historians still argue whether matcha became popular first in the imperial court or among Buddhist monks meditating in remote temples. Either way, its cultural weight grew until it became inseparable from the tea ceremony's very identity. You can almost taste the earthy sweetness already, even before the hot water touches the powder. Moment holding matcha poised for transformations, like standing on the edge of something both ancient and immediate. The ritual isn't just about making tea, it's about embracing a moment of quiet intensity. You lean in, feeling the powder's faint aroma, grassy, fresh, a bit like a forest after rain, and prepare yourself for the next step, the delicate whisking that turns powder and water into liquid silk. Asterisk, you notice the host's kimono as they move with deliberate grace. The soft fabric rustling lightly against the tatami. It's not just clothing, it's a language of respect and tradition. The kimono's colors are muted earth tones, perfectly matching the tea room's subdued palette. And its cut allows for fluid, precise movements that the ceremony demands. Every fold and sash, or obi, carries meaning. The way it's tied signals the host's role and the formality of the occasion. You might find it odd, but even the slight creases or the way the sleeves brush the floor have been subjects of scrutiny and debate among tea masters. One quirky anecdote tells of a tea master so obsessed with kimono etiquette that he reportedly refused to perform a ceremony if a guest's sleeve was out of place. A small gesture, but one that could unbalance the entire ritual's harmony. Historians still argue whether the strict dress code developed primarily to reinforce social hierarchies or as a sincere effort to cultivate mindfulness and uniformity. Either way, the kimono is more than fabric. It's a symbol woven from centuries of culture, discipline, and art. As the host kneels, you catch a glimpse of the fine stitching and the subtle patterns embroidered into the silk lining, secret detail, visible only to those close enough to observe. These small touches remind you that the ceremony is as much about subtlety and hidden depth as it is about overt gestures. The kimono also serves practical purposes. Its long sleeves provide elegant ways to handle tea utensils, while the layered design helps maintain posture and calm breathing. You realize that the garment is a partner in the ceremony. It's designed to support the ritual's flow rather than hinder it. You can almost hear the soft whisper of silk as the host, Lissa, gentle, soundtrack to the ceremony's unfolding.com. It's a reminder that every element, even the clothes worn, is part of a larger choreography that invites you to slow down, notice, and appreciate. Asterisk, you hear the faint crunch of gravel outside as the guest approaches, the anticipation thick in the air. The entrance to the tea room is a humble, low doorway called Nijiraguchi, so small that you must bow deeply to enter, symbolizing humility and equality. You likely didn't realize that this deliberate design forces all guests, regardless of rank, to shed pride before stepping inside. It's a physical reminder that, here, everyone is equal in the shared pursuit of calm and connection. As the guest slips inside, they remove their sandals carefully, placing them neatly outside, a silent gesture of respect for the sacred space. The host greets them with a subtle bow, eyes lowered, words few but warm. The room's silence feels intentional, like a pause that holds space for whatever emotions or thoughts the guest carries in. You might find it curious that guests traditionally entered in a specific order, with seating determined by social hierarchy though. Today, the emphasis has shifted more toward spiritual equality. There's a quirky tradition of offering the guest the front seat closest to the host, known as camisa, which was considered an honor. Historians still argue whether these seating customs were rigid social rules or flexible practices adapted to each ceremony's context. As you settle into your seat, you notice how the tatami mats guide your posture, knees tucked neatly beneath, back straight but relaxed. The room's intimacy shrinks the world down to this shared moment. You feel the faint warmth from the charcoal, the subtle scent of incense curling in the air, the delicate texture of straw beneath your fingers. The host and guest exchange bows. Again, a silent acknowledgement that the ceremony has begun, not with words, but with presence. The unspoken communication is thick, a dance of respect, gratitude, and mindfulness. You realize at this moment the guest's entrance and seating is more than protocol. It's a gateway to shedding distractions, ego, and haste. Care. In this small, simple room, the world outside melts away, leaving only the quiet ritual and the breath you both share. You feel the subtle shift as the ceremony truly begins, marked by a slow, deliberate bow from the host. This bow isn't just polite, it's a gesture laden with meaning, a silent invitation to enter fully into the moment. You probably wouldn't guess that in the Edo period, bows could vary in depth and duration depending on the relationship between host and guest. The occasion's solemnity. The art of bowing, or ojiji, was a language in itself, mastering which could take years of practice. The room falls into a gentle silence, but it's not empty. It hums with the unspoken respect, presence, and intention. You notice how the host's eyes never meet yours directly. Instead, they lower their gaze, a sign of humility, and focus on the ritual rather than personal interaction. Historians still argue whether this quiet communication is rooted more in Zen Buddhist practices or feudal etiquette. But either way, it creates a space where words become unnecessary. The silence feels alive, inviting you to listen to the faint crackle of charcoal, but the soft rustle of fabric, and even your own breathing. The host reaches slowly for the teapot, their movements measured like a slow dance. Every gesture is choreographed to embody calm and reverence. You watch as the bowl is lifted, turned slightly in the hands, presenting it first to the main guest. This act isn't merely handing over a drink, it's an offering of respect and connection. You remember the story about a tea master who once refused to serve tea until a rude guest corrected their posture subtle way to enforce mindfulness and etiquette. The ceremony is as much about shaping the participants' mental states as it is about preparing tea as you receive the bowl. You feel the warmth through the ceramic, grounding you in the present. The room's stillness wraps around you like a soft blanket. You understand that this opening bow and silent communication set the tone for everything that follows a shared journey inward, brewed one mindful moment at a time. Asterisk. You watch the host pick up the chasing the bamboo whisk with, a delicate grip that suggests years of practice. The motion begins slowly, almost hesitantly, but soon finds a rhythm that is both steady and meditative. The whisk moves in tiny, rapid circles, frothing the matcha powder in hot water into a smooth, vibrant, green foam. It's hypnotic, the way the bamboo prongs blur in your vision, creating a gentle whirlpool that seems to pull time inward. You probably didn't expect that the design of the chasing evolved to optimize this frothing action, with some whisks boasting over 100 prongs delicately carved to aerate the tea just right. Legend has it that some tea masters believed the act of whisking was a form of moving meditation, transforming not just the tea, but the spirit of the maker and drinker alike. Historians still argue whether the frothy layer on top was initially prized for its taste or simply became an aesthetic hallmark over time. Either way, that creamy foam signals the tea's readiness and embodies the ceremony's blend of simplicity and sophistication. The rhythmic sound of the whisk scraping lightly against the bowl adds a subtle soundtrack to the ceremonious soft whisper that contrasts with the world's usual noise. You notice how the host's breath synchronizes with the whisking, slow and steady, as if both are part of the same calm flow. There's something mesmerizing about this transformation, okay? Turning powdered leaves in hot water into a liquid silk that feels both ancient and immediate. You lean in, drawn by the swirling emerald whirlpool, and feel yourself slowing down, breathing deeper, matching the ceremony's gentle tempo. The tea isn't just being made, it's being crafted with intention. Each whisk a small act of mindfulness that invites you to savor not just flavor, but presence. Asterisk, the host lifts the tea bowl carefully, hands steady but gentle, moving with a choreography born of centuries of practice. The offering of tea is more than a simple handover, it's a bridge between host and guest, and loaded with gratitude and respect. You notice the slow, deliberate way the bowl is presented, turned slightly so the most beautiful side faces you, and your hands are cupped to receive it fully. You probably didn't know that in some schools of tea, the way the bowl is offered can indicate the depth of the relationship between host and guest. A subtle tilt or pause carries meaning, a language of gesture that communicates more than words ever could. There's a quirky story about a host who once startled a guest by offering the bowl. It's upside down, an intentional mistake meant to provoke humility and awareness. Though not everyone appreciated the lesson, historians still argue whether the precise etiquette around offering tea was a tool for social control among samurai or a sincere effort to cultivate mindfulness and respect. Either way, you can feel the weight of this moment. It's an exchange, a quiet conversation that requires your full attention. As you lift the bowl, your fingers feel the smooth, slightly warm ceramic surface, grounding you in the present. The bowl's shape cradles the tea like a precious secret, and the aroma of the freshly whisked matcha rises gently, earthy and sweet. You pause, taking in the shared silence between you and the host before bringing the bowl closer. This offering is not just about quenching thirst, it's about participating in a ritual that connects you to a lineage of quiet grace and intention. One sip at a time. Asterisk, you bring the bowl to your lips, feeling its gentle warmth seep into your hands, anchoring you fully in the moment. The first sip is a delicate dance of sensations, bitter, earthy, yet surprisingly smooth. The taste of matcha is not sweet like modern teas or coffees. It's a complex balance of umami and astringency, flavor that rewards patience and mindful drinking. You might be surprised to learn that in the Edo period, the bitterness of tea was often seen as a metaphor for life's hardships, a reminder that sweetness and struggle coexist. Some samurai reportedly took their tea strong and bitter to steel their resolve before battle, while monks sipped slowly to calm the mind during long meditation sessions. Historians still argue whether this symbolic interpretation was widespread or more localized among certain tea schools. Regardless, the act of drinking tea mindfully, paying attention to each nuance of flavor and texture, is central to the ceremony's purpose. It's less about quenching thirst and more about savoring presence. You notice how the room's quiet deepens as everyone drinks, the shared silence, a collective breath, the tactile feel of the ceramic bowl, the slight bitterness coating your tongue, the faint aroma lingering. It all invites you to slow your thoughts and simply be. There's a quirky tradition of turning the bowl slightly before drinking, a gesture that shows respect to the host and acknowledges the tea's journey from leaf to cup. You catch yourself doing the same, feeling oddly connected to countless others who performed this simple ritual across centuries. As the last sip warms your throat, You feel a subtle shift, a gentle settling of mind and body. The tease. Bitterness becomes a balm, a momentary pause from life's noise. And in this pause, you find something precious, quiet presence, brewed in green powder and water. Asterisk. The ceremony moves into its next phase as the host carefully cleans the tea tools, a process that looks simple but carries deep symbolism. You watch as the chishaku is wiped clean with the chakin cloth. The bamboo scoops curve, catching the soft fabric's gentle strokes. Damn. The chasen whisk is rinsed and examined, its delicate prongs straightened with care. Q. Even the tea bowl is wiped with meticulous attention, as if honoring each tool's role in the ritual. You probably wouldn't expect that this cleaning isn't just about hygiene. In the Edo tea ceremony, the act of wiping the utensils symbolizes purification, not just of the objects, but of the mind and space. It's a quiet reminder that, like the tools, our thoughts to need cleansing. A moment to let go of distractions and prepare for what comes next. There's an odd story among tea masters about a particularly fastidious host who once spent so much time cleaning that guests worried the ceremony might never end. Some whispered that he was using the ritual to meditate, wiping away not just tea stains, but also mental clutter. Historians still debate whether this attention to detail grew from Zen Buddhist influences or was a cultural emphasis on respect and mindfulness. You notice how the host's movements remain slow, deliberate, almost reverent. The soft sounds of cloth on bamboo and ceramics echo gently in the quiet room, creating a tactile soundtrack that draws you deeper into the moment. This isn't a rushed cleanup. It's an extension of the ceremony's grace. You find yourself mirroring the calm, your breath slowing as you watch the tools transform from used to pristine. This act, simple on the surface, is a quiet ritual of renewal, a moment to reset before the ceremony gently winds down. Asterisk. Your eyes drift toward the tokonoma once more, where the hanging scroll and flower arrangement quietly command attention. The scroll, called a kakemono, is more than decoration. It's a carefully selected message, a whispered poem, or a Zen phrase meant to set the ceremony's tone. Today, the calligraphy flows with elegant simplicity. It's perhaps a single character like harmony or tranquility, kinked with strokes that seem to breathe on the paper. Nearby, the chabana, the flower arrangement, is a study in understated beauty. Unlike Western bouquets, these flowers are wild and asymmetrical, arranged to reflect the season's fleeting nature. You might be surprised to learn that tea masters favored humble blooms, like a single sprig of plum blossom or a few sprigs of pine, deliberately avoiding overly showy flowers. This choice echoes the wabi-sabi philosophy, finding beauty in impermanence, in imperfection. There's a quirky story that one tea master once used a weed picked from the roadside as the chabana, sparking both admiration and scandal among guests. Historians still argue whether such daring choices were common or isolated acts of rebellion within the strict tea school traditions. You sense how the scroll and flowers communicate without words, framing the ceremony's emotional landscape. They remind everyone present of the transient nature of life, the passing seasons, the changing moods, the delicate balance of presence and absence. As you gaze at these quiet symbols, room seems to breathe with the rhythm of nature itself. The scroll's ink, the flower's petals, the earthy walls, they all speak a shared language of subtlety and depth, inviting you to look beyond the obvious and find meaning in stillness. This little alcove, simple as it seems, is a silent storytelling. Tales of seasons past, hopes whispered, and the delicate dance between nature and human artifice. Asterisk. The ceremony shifts subtly as the host nods toward the changing seasons and ever-present force shaping every aspect of Edo life, including tea. You notice that even the choice of utensils, the scroll's calligraphy, and the flower arrangement reflect this quiet rhythm. In spring, Delicate cherry blossoms might grace the cabana. Coring fiery maple leaves adorn the room. This attentiveness to nature's cycles is woven into the ceremony's fabric, reminding everyone that life itself is a series of transitions. You might find it surprising that tea masters often crafted entirely new tea ceremonies for different seasons, adjusting everything from the thickness of the tea to the warmth of the room. There's an odd tale about a winter ceremony held in a snowbound mountain hut where guests warmed themselves by the hearth while savoring a thicker, richer matcha designed to comfort against the cold. Historians still argue how widely such seasonal variations were practiced, or if they were reserved for elite circles. The concept of shun, or seasonal peak, governs much of Japanese culture and is deeply embedded here. You feel the ceremony's pace slow even further, mirroring the natural world's ebb and flow. The host's movements are softer, the tea warmer, silence more profound. This seasonal sensitivity isn't just aesthetic, it's philosophical, a meditation on impermanence and renewal. The tea ceremony becomes a mirror of nature's endless dance, encouraging you to accept change as part of the beauty. You realize that by aligning with the seasons, the ceremony transforms from a static ritual into a living practice, deeply connected to the world outside the tea room's walls. Each sip becomes a tribute to the fleeting moments we often overlook. Asterisk, you begin to grasp the weight of tradition, carried not only in the tools or the ceremony's movements, but in the lineage of tea masters themselves. This knowledge, painstakingly passed down from teacher to student over generations, is a sacred thread connecting past and present. The host you observe is likely part of such a lineage, a living vessel of secrets, techniques, skew, and philosophies refined through centuries. You might not have realized that some tea schools guarded their methods with such intensity that apprentices took oaths of silence, forbidden from sharing certain rituals outside the inner circle. There's an intriguing anecdote about a tea master who disguised his true techniques in poetry and metaphor, forcing students to interpret the ritual's meaning rather than merely mimic motions. Historians still debate how much of this secrecy was practical protection and how much was a spiritual test. This lineage isn't just about technique, but about embodying values, patience, humility, and mindfulness that defined the tea ceremony's soul. The host's deliberate movements, calm demeanor, kana gestures reflect years of dedicated practice and deep respect for tradition. You feel a quiet reverence for this passing of knowledge, a reminder that the ceremony is not a static performance, but a living art shaped by countless hands and hearts. Each host you meet carries their own imprint, yet all honor the same essential spirit. This connection across time adds profound layer to the ceremony. Drinking tea becomes not only a personal experience, but a link in an unbroken chain of shared humanity. Asterisk, as the ceremony unfolds, you sense a deeper current beneath the ritual's surface, a spiritual thread woven through every gesture, every breath. The influence of Zen Buddhism is palpable, grounding the experience in the pursuit of inner peace and mindful presence. You realize the tea ceremony is more than a social custom. It's a moving meditation, an act of awakening you might not expect. That many tea masters were themselves Zen monks or deeply influenced by Zen philosophy, which emphasizes simplicity, impermanence, and the beauty of the present moment. There's a charming story of a tea master who used the ceremony to teach students about mu, the concept of nothingness, by intentionally leaving the tea bowl empty during one ritual, sparking reflection and even frustration among guests. Historians still debate whether such acts were common teaching tools or rare philosophical experiments. The ceremony's quiet pace invites you to shed distractions, cultivating a state of ichi, or one time, one meeting. The idea that each moment is unique and can never be replicated. This awareness makes the ritual feel sacred and fleeting all at once. You feel yourself drawn into this spiritual embrace, where the mundane act of preparing and drinking tea becomes a profound journey inward. The simple, mindful motions ripple outward, touching everything in the room, from the flickering charcoal to the softly rustling kimono sleeves. It's a practice that teaches you to be present with grace, to find stillness amid motion, and to appreciate the delicate interplay between effort and surrender. Asterisk. You've probably heard that historians still debate the exact origins of the tea ceremony as it exists today. Is it primarily a noble invention crafted by samurai and court elites, or did it arise organically among common folk, a grassroots tradition shaped by shared practices? This question lingers, a puzzle wrapped in centuries of cultural evolution. On one side, scholars argue that the formalized tea ceremony with its codified rituals was designed by tea masters like Sen no Rikie to instill discipline, hierarchy, and aesthetic values aligned with the warrior class. On the other hand, some point to folk traditions involving communal tea drinking and simpler rituals that predate the Edo period, suggesting the ceremony's roots lie deeper in popular culture. You might find it intriguing that there are even tales of tea ceremonies held outdoors by peasants featuring local herbs instead of matcha, focusing more on community bonding than spiritual mindfulness. Some of these stories have a quirky, charm-like one where a wandering monk's casual tea session in a mountain village inspired generations of local tea gatherings. Historians still argue whether the tea ceremony's evolution was a top-down imposition or a natural fusion of diverse practices over time. This debate itself highlights the tea ritual's richness, a living tradition shaped by layers of history, culture, and social change. You realize that this ambiguity adds a certain mystery, reminding you that rituals are never fixed but fluid, adapting to the needs and values of the people who practice them. The tea ceremony, in its elegance and quiet power, is both an artifact and a living expression of Japanese culture's ongoing dialogue with itself. Asterisk. The room settles into a silence so profound it feels almost tangible. You find yourself attuned to the quiet moments, the soft sigh of breath, the faint rustle of kimono fabric, the slow crackle of the dying charcoal embers. These pauses, more than words or actions, are the ceremony's heartbeats, spaces where presence expands. You probably wouldn't guess how essential this silence is. It's not emptiness, but a shared communion, a stillness that invites reflection and connection beyond speech. There's a charming anecdote about a tea master who once held a ceremony entirely in silence, leaving guests to communicate through glances and gestures alone, deepening their awareness of unspoken bonds. Historians still argue whether such extreme quietude was widespread or reserved for particular schools or occasions, but its spiritual weight is undeniable. This silence becomes a canvas, painting the nuances of shared experience between host and guest. You notice how the quiet seems to amplify the room's subtle sounds. The delicate clink of a tea scoop settling, the whisper of a folded cloth, the faint scent of incense wafting gently. These sensory details ground you fully in the moment. This stillness is a meditation, space where the ordinary dissolves and the extraordinary emerges. In this quiet, you find not just calm, but a profound sense of belonging to the ceremony, to the space, and to those who have come before. You feel your thoughts slow, your breath deepen, and your mind settle as the ceremony's quiet presence wraps around you like a soft, comforting cloak. Asterisk. The ceremony's close arrives gently, like the fading notes of a delicate melody. The host bows deeply, a gesture filled with gratitude and respect that feels like a soft exhale after a long-held breath. You follow suit, returning the bow with a quiet heart, feeling the ritual's weight settle within you. You notice how the final moments stretch a silent farewell, a shared understanding that this gathering, though brief, has left a lasting impression. The teapot is placed back carefully, the utensils arranged neatly, and the charcoal embers smolder low, their warmth lingering like a quiet memory. There's a quaint story about a tea master who would end the ceremony by offering guests a small, simple sweet, symbolizing the balance between bitterness and sweetness in life itself. Historians still debate whether this was common practice or an idiosyncrasy of particular schools, but the symbolism speaks volumes. As you rise from the tatami, the outside world feels both near and distant to paradoxical awareness, shaped by the ceremony's gentle rhythm. The tea room's quiet sanctuary lingers in your mind, refuge you can revisit whenever life's noise grows too loud. You realize the ceremony is more than teats, a practice of presence, gratitude, and connection. Each bow, each sip, each silent moment has woven a tapestry of calm that stays with you long after the last whisper fades. Now, as you prepare to step back into your day or night, carry this stillness with you. Let the echoes of the tea room's soft grace remind you to pause, breathe, and find beauty in the simple, fleeting moments. Asterisk now, as the ceremony gently closes. You find yourself breathing a little slower, feeling the soft weight of calm settle deep into your bones. The quiet of the tea room still hums in your ears, not a silence that presses, but one that comforts, like a gentle blanket wrapping around a weary traveler. You might notice your thoughts softening, the endless chatter of the day fading into a distant murmur. Imagine the warmth of the tea bowl lingering in your hands, the faint earthy aroma still teasing your senses, a subtle reminder of presence. The charcoal's fading glow mirrors this softness, its gentle embers whispering stories of patience and quiet devotion. The seasonal flowers in the alcoves sway faintly in a breeze you barely feel, marking time's slow passage. This moment, wrapped in stillness and grace, is a gift not just of rest, but of connection. A reminder that even amid life's clamor, there exists a space where you can simply be, where attention to small things creates profound peace. You carry the ceremony's rhythm within you now, slow, steady pulse, guiding you back to yourself. So, as you drift toward sleep or wakefulness, let this quietness settle deep, cradling your mind with gentle ease. Know that these moments, fleeting yet eternal, are yours to revisit whenever the world grows too loud. And with that, may your dreams be soft and sweet, unfolding like the delicate petals of the tea room's seasonal bloom.